Hey everybody, Larry Lawton here. I've been asked a lot of questions about what's the hierarchy in prison, both with the guards, the prison administration, and also the inmates. So we're gonna get into that video here in a minute. Before I get started, please check me out on YouTube, member programs, Patreon member programs, Discord, our podcast, please check it out. It's called The Real Deal with me, Larry Lawton. It's doing great. It's on all major podcast platforms. Also check out the book, Gangster Redemption, all the merch and all that kind of stuff. Support us in whatever way you can, and we really appreciate it. Let me jump into this video. People have been asking, hey Larry, how does it work with inmates? Who's the leading gangs and stuff of that nature? And then some people ask, how does the guard structure work? You know, you say some counselors and case managers and then guards and captains, and we're gonna go into all that right now. I think this will be a good and very informative video. First of all, let's go to the guard section first, because I think I can work that out a little bit quicker. There's two parts of a prison with the staff. Let's call it the staff. You have the administration staff, and then you also have the security staff. Now, ultimately, in every prison, the warden is the boss. It's like the President of the United States. He's not in the military, but he's the commander-in-chief. So he is the head of the whole place. The warden is in fact the head of the place, and then the deputy warden is the head of the place. Now the head of security in prison is the captain, and now I'm talking about federal prison here. So I'm not going to be talking about state prison because every state might have a little bit different, but the federal system is the biggest system in probably the world, and so we're going to go into the federal prison system. So let's go from the bottom up. You have your regular guards. Now these guards are security staff. They man the units, they man the gun towers. If they have a medium security, they always have two trucks going around the fences all the time, 24/7. They're manned by security staff. Everything going around there, they're manned by security staff. So that's the guards at first. That's just a regular guard who gets out of a whatever bullshit academy. Here's another thing. They don't need to have college or anything. Anybody can just get a job here. And they can be young and be stupid and power hungry. It's a crazy place to be, but that does happen. I think they try to put them in a tower first and then maybe in the truck and stuff of that nature. Then you have, after the regular guards, you'll have a senior guard. Those are guards that have been around a little bit longer and stuff, and they probably didn't want to go up to get to be a lieutenant. So you have guards and then you have lieutenants. Now the lieutenants will run the SHU. They'll have a lieutenant who runs the prison during night times when nobody else is there. So then you're gonna have the prison lieutenants running all of that. Now the lieutenants, after the lieutenants, you have the head of the whole security, which is the captain. The captain is in charge of security on that prison, and believe me, the warden will defer to the captain when it comes to security. If he don't, he's probably an idiot. Now, all of these people, all the people I'm talking about, have been trained as regular guards because they need their help when they come, when they go into a lockdown, when they got to feed the inmates, when things get crazy, when they're shorted staff. You'll see a counselor, you'll see a unit manager, a case manager, and you'll see them in a unit. You go, what the fuck is going on? They're so short-staffed, they'll end up putting those people. Now, normally, a SHU has usually two guards on, depending on the SHU, and a lieutenant and head of that SHU. Now, he runs the SHU. SHU is Special Housing Unit, or the Hole, as I call it. So we have that. Now, in the administrative staff, so then you also have CMS. CMS is the maintenance department. You'll have guys, and they wear different uniforms. You'll have guards wear one uniform. Now you have CMS staff work, and they wear different uniforms. And you'll see that in Unicor, which is prison business. You'll see that in, the rec department actually has their own guards, but they're real guards too, but they dress differently in shorts or whatever they want to come in. And then you have the maintenance staff, the plumbers, the electricians, all those guys. Those are the guys that maintain the prison. Now, they all have inmates that work for them. So they really just walk around with the inmates, and they pick inmates who have experience in certain things. And those inmates are going to do the work while these guys, these CMS staff just pretty much watch them. Now you've got administrative staff. Your lower level administrative staff is your counselors. Now, counselors is the first person you're going to meet when you go to a prison. They're going to talk to you about what's your point level, what you're going to, here's what you do. Do you have a phone list? Give me the phone numbers you want on. Do you have a visiting list? Here's your visitors. You all have to be approved. You don't just say, I got this and it's all. No, somebody has to do that. Well, that's your counselor. Then every unit has what they call a case manager. Now that person is the next in charge, and that person is supposed to handle people's literally law cases. If you need a legal call, if something happens where you're going back to court, or they handle your case. And they also handle your case in this way. Like when your security level goes down, if you have the points to be in a penitentiary, when they come down to go to a medium, they're going to inform you after every time. Every 6 months you get a review, and in that review, if your points come down, they want to get rid of you, because if you have your points low and you get killed in a high security prison, somebody's going to answer for that. Because what were you doing in this high security prison when you're a fucking low level bank robber, no violence with a note and stuff like that. So now the case manager handles that. Obviously they're supposed to go over your case with you and see where you're going, what programs you're supposed to use. Counselors do that, but then the case manager follows that and puts you in a different category. Then you have the unit manager. Now the unit manager, like I said, you'll have, depending on the prison, like let's just say Coleman, they had A1, A2, A3, A4, B1, B2, B3, B4, Now a unit manager will handle B1 and 2. One unit manager will handle. Now they'll have 2 counselors and 2 case managers for B1 and B2. They handle that. But one unit manager handles both those units. And then that next unit manager, they'll have for B2, B3, and B4, and around the whole prison. They're the unit managers. Now those people are pretty high up. They'll be what they call the highest administrative person when they're on duty. Like on a weekend, this unit manager might have the duty, so he represents the warden in the administration part. The lieutenant who is on will represent the captain during that weekend. So that's how that works, and they work close together. Then you also have a staff of teachers. Usually these people are not part of the prison. They didn't go to prison guard school and all that kind of stuff. They might have went through a couple of weeks of training, because you'll see those guys in an emergency. You'll see them in the unit, handing out food or stuff like that on lockdowns. Those people are your teachers, your counselors, your psychologists, all of those people. Then you also have public health service. The prison in feds is not run by a doctor. In fact, a doctor does not even have to be a licensed doctor in that state to be a federal prison doctor. And that has happened. We had cases where somebody died, they looked it up, the doctor was not even certified to be in that state as a doctor. He doesn't have to be. He's on federal property. He is handling, and he works for the public health service. You'll see them, sometimes they wear the uniforms with the stripes and all that bullshit. And they even have usually a dental guy, and they'll have whatever doctor or two, and they'll have some minor staff people. I won't say nurses, but I guess they're nurses, I guess. And you'll have those people. Then you have, on top of that, you have the associate warden. Now you'll have a warden in charge of industries, associate warden. You'll have associate warden and head of education. You'll have associate warden, head of security. And obviously then you have the warden. That man I found out through Massey, a guard that I know very well, and he's been on this show too. Now Massey was telling me, and I didn't even notice till I got out, the wardens get a bonus for saving money, and depending on how much. And they'll save money by not hiring extra guards, making sure one guard. They used to have 2 guards on at night, one for one unit, one for another. Now they have 1 guard on the 11 to 7 shift, and he'll handle both units. Makes no sense, because if a guy's dying in this unit screaming, nobody's gonna hear him. The guy's in the other unit. Now he already collapses, he screamed, he collapses. Guy comes back, nothing's happening until he makes his rounds, which is supposed to be counting you 5 times a day. They do, but who knows what the fuck really happens. Obviously, Epstein case. Anyway, let's keep going. So now that warden gets a bonus, maybe cutting food, cutting programs, saving on overtime. Guards don't like this either, and I found that out as well. So this just blows me away that they can do that and give a bonus for that. That should be the opposite. if you don't have this, you should lose money, or you should lose vacation time, or whatever you do. I don't know what they could do to them. But these wardens, they'll save money. And what do they do when they're done being a warden in the Bureau of Prisons, Federal Bureau of Prisons? They go to the private industry. So that is the administration part, from the warden to the associate wardens to the unit managers to the case managers to the counselors, and obviously the captain, lieutenants, and guards, and all of the auxiliary staff. Depending on the size of the prison, they need a lot of people to run a prison. Obviously, it costs money, and that's all figured in what it costs for an inmate to be housed every year. The last numbers, I think, were like $27,000 a year per inmate to house him. Now, let's jump over to the inmates. I'm going to be very blunt and very honest here. Obviously, the white race is not well represented in prison. And that is because it's a numbers game. I was in Atlanta, and I think there were 15% white, and then you had Hispanic and black. So you have such a small population, it's going to be hard for you to run anything. But probably the most feared prison gang of all of them is the Aryan Brotherhood. Now, not the TAB, not the Texas Aryan Brotherhood, the AB, true ABs. They're really all murderers. They don't fuck around. They run a prison. They pretty much run a prison. In the federal system, they won't put more than 4 ABs on any 1 yard, because most of them are on lockdown. Most of them are on what they call close custody management, because they've stabbed people, killed somebody. Most of them are murderers. Most of them are badass motherfuckers, and I met them and I dealt with them, and I had respect from them because I used to pull paperwork. I was the guy who was getting people's paperwork pulled to see if they were good, or snitch or not, or child molester, or chomo, or whatever it is. So I had a lot of respect there. But in my estimation, it's the Aryan Brotherhood is the most feared and violent prison gang of all. Now, let's keep going. I'm talking in the federal system at this point. You have what they call the MA, or the Mexican Mafia. They are no joke either. Now, you have also the Sureños, which is Southern Mexicans in California, or Norteños. They're Northern Mexicans in California. Now, those guys are the Southern Mexicans are the recruiting arm to become an MA. MAs, again, they're at the level of a Aryan Brotherhood, those kind of stuff. Now you also have your black gangs. You have Gangsta Disciples. You have Black Guerrilla Family. You have Crips, Blood, DC Boys. So those are the black gangs. Now, every one of them are feared, and every one of them have respect, and they gain their respect for whatever reason and whatever yard. So after those guys, you have, I call them the wannabes. But now you go to the Mexicans, and I talked about the MA, but they also talk about what they call the BICES. BICES formed, I remember when they were almost forming in the system, what was happening is the gangs would try to get a Mexican kid who come in, and it could be a bullshit shit. He gets points for crossing the border, and he's a felon, he gets 16 points. Before you know it, he's in prison. And now you had the Border Brothers, you had different Mexican gangs. Now those Mexican gangs, if you weren't in one of those gangs, they were kind of being picked on. So what happened was all the ones who are not part of a gang, they formed their own somewhat gang called the BICES. Now, the BICES on some yards were very, very strong. They would band together, because they'd probably have way more than any other gang. Other gangs are split up, and now you got the BICES who don't want to be with anybody, and they say, fuck you. And they're strong. They were very strong on Edgefield. Then you have the Spanish gangs, is like the Latin Kings, Nietas, G27s. Those are all Puerto Rican gangs. Now, again, at that level, you have, I would say the Latin Kings were the more powerful of the G27s and the Nietas. Depending, Nietas was pretty powerful in certain prisons I was in, but it was always usually the Latin Kings, and those guys were that, I say that group's power base. And then, of course, you got the white guys. And I mentioned Aryan Brotherhood because they're in a league of their own. They're fucking in a league of their own. And then you have the dirty white boys, Aryan Brotherhood, Aryan Circle, Aryan Nation. Listen, I was never in any gang, and I dealt with the gang leaders, and they're called shot callers in prison. Every gang has what they call a shot caller. Now, he's like the leader of that gang. Now, that guy has a beef. Let's just say this guy, and this happened, this guy owes us guys money. We're gonna go to them and say, listen, your fucking boy over here owes us fucking $1,000 for drugs or whatever it is. They go, what? Yeah. Now, if they say, do what you want, we gotta do something. You gotta stab him, you gotta do something. I had to do that. Now, if you have, like what happened to us, if we had a guy who owed money to another gang and they come to us, we'd say, okay, we'd band together, we'd pay that gang the money he owes. We would beat that guy half the fucking down, beat him down, and send him to the hole with dope or with whatever we wanted to sell in the hole, because you can actually make quicker money in the hole when you bring dope. If you suitcase dope and you bring it into the hole, they'll be selling dope in the hole and it's more money and they get it all quicker and they'll amass books of stamps and they'll send them out. I mean, the runners and everybody else. So what would happen is we would take care of our problem guy. Now, if we didn't want him, he was a piece of shit or whatever, we'd say, you do what the fuck you want with him. You could get killed that way. You could literally get killed that way. So that is how the structure of gangs and how they work in the prison system. Now, the shot callers would often get together and have a meeting about something going on, especially in the high security prisons. Even the lieutenants and the captain and all would call shot callers together. Let's say a Aryan Nation guy stabs a Nieta for whatever reason. Well, the prison's gonna be locked down. Straight, boom, lock it down. And they will lock it down until they figure out there's not gonna be no race war on the yard. So they'll end up locking everybody in, they'll do a shakedown, they get as many knives as they can, they get all the wine, it's what a pain in the ass. And what they would do then is would get all the shot callers together. This is the administration, the lieutenant and the captain. I did forget to mention the SIS. SIS is a part of a different group on the security side. SIS, think of SIS as like the FBI of the outside. They have arrest powers. They will investigate guards. They will investigate inmates. They will investigate anything crazy. That's what their job is called. That's a Special Investigative Service or whatever the fuck SIS. I think that's what it is. So that you have that SIS. So that SIS guy and the captain and everybody will get together and figure out what's going on. Is it going to be a race war? If we open up, is now Nieta's going to go stab somebody in this white gang? And they got to figure that out. And they get all the shot calls together. They find out what the real issue was. It could have been nothing, but it could have been something where, boom. And it happened. Actually, that happened on the yard in Lewisburg, where 4 people were killed because it became a Muslim versus Aryan Brotherhood, and Aryan Brotherhood killed 4 Muslims on that yard. People who were there said there was a siren that they never heard before, and that place was locked down for like 6 months. Literally locked down for 6 months. So now the prison will figure out if that's a really serious incident and we have to keep the prison locked down, and they transfer. Now, when a prison gets really bad, a lot of killings, like we had Atlanta. I was in Atlanta. And they ended up sending what they call a troubleshooting warden. Now, we had big Willie Scott. Won't forget him. Now, he's a very big black guy, 6'4", whatever, big old guy. Willie Scott, he was a troubleshooting warden. Now, he had what they call power to transfer anyone on the spot above region. He only answered to Washington, D.C. See how the Bureau of Prisons is set up. You have the Washington, D.C. office. That's headquarters in Washington. Then you have regions all around the country. South region, North region, West, Midwest, all these regions. Now they have regional directors and regional people that inspect prisons, do this shit and all the crap they do, and all administration goes through that regional until Washington. Well, Willie Scott was a troubleshooting warden, and he didn't have that. In fact, when I was there, Willie Scott ended up locking down the prison, transferred 150 people that night, meaning nobody knew what was coming. 12 at night, everybody's locked down, guards are coming around, pack up, pack up. You're hearing them because you get up, pack up, telling this guy, this guy, this guy. Now, they picked who they wanted to transfer because of trouble or influence on the yard, everything like that. So they would be saying, transfer, pack up, pack up, pack up. And they would put them on a bus and fucking literally send them to prisons all over the fucking country. Different ones, even county jails to start and whatever they got to figure out. Willie Scott had the power to do that over region. He didn't have to ask the regional director, hey, I want to do this. Fuck you. Boom, boom, boom. Now, he was sent into that prison to clean up the violence. We had a murder a month for 18 months. It was just a fucking zoo prison. Worst prison in the country at the time, Atlanta was. It was just a fucking zoo. And Willie Scott came and cleaned it up, if you want to call cleaned it up. He didn't clean it up. It was a fucking, things just got tighter for us. Obviously, wine making, drugs, gambling, everything we did, nothing stopped. Nothing stopped. They just wanted a show of force that we're going to transfer troublemakers or whatever they're going to do. Now, they take some troublemakers and they go to the ADX. ADX is the administrative detention in Colorado. That is a fucking supermax prison. You never see daylight. You're never with anybody. They have even a step-down program there to get back to a penitentiary, which is violent. So that's what they'll do. You know, it was funny because I was lucky. I did law work. I had a connection on the street with a lawyer and somebody else. So I was able to work the law library. And then I dealt with all the shot callers. They love me. Hey, Lawton, we need a favor, man. Hey, lad, we need a solid. If I wanted to go anywhere to a shot caller and talk to them, I didn't have to go to my shot caller. I mean, they'd come to me in the law library and say, lad, we got to check this guy out. Can you pull his paperwork? You got it. And I didn't charge them. I mean, they would pay, but I didn't charge them. It was a favor because I knew if I needed that favor, it would help. And it did sometimes out in that prison. I had the respect, one, as a stand-up convict, and two, one that would shut his mouth, get the paperwork, boom, boom. In fact, it got so bad, when I was leaving prison in 2007, I got paperwork on one guy because he wanted to be in their gang, and they got the paperwork back, and he was no good. He was gonna be fucking whacked. I held that paperwork until after I left and didn't even give it to them. I kept saying I didn't get it yet, because it could take a month or whatever. You know, you got to get through legal work, got to do a whole bunch of stuff. I said the lawyer's out. Of course, I didn't want them to kill the guy and me be in on a murder conspiracy. So I said, fuck this shit, man. This guy, and I've pulled paperwork on guys who were chomos and they threw them off a tier, fucked them up royally, and I'm like, holy shit, I got away with that. Because luckily, any of the people I pulled did not die. So otherwise, because that's a murder charge in prison. That is a murder charge in prison. So I think I explained both sides of the equation in the guards and the inmates in prison, and that was a great question, and now everybody knows, so you can pass this around. And in the federal system, if you go, which I pray you don't, you'll understand the system as it should be. All right, guys, have a great day. Please stay safe. Thanks for your support, everybody. You know it means so much to me. We work hard to put out content, but it's because you guys keep watching. Have a great day, everyone. Please make a good choice. Don't go to prison. Help somebody. Do the right thing. Open a door for an old lady. Carry a bag. You'll feel better about yourself, and you'll be helping somebody. Have a great day, everybody. Stay safe.